Joining us right now, the governor of the Republic of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, who I have said before, I think has really created the blueprint for how to deal with some of this. And Texas is one of the states that is moving into, and correct me if I'm wrong, Governor, moving into phase one. Welcome to the program. And is that accurate to say that we're kind of transitioning to that phase?
We are. So you mentioned phase one, which is exactly the way that the president has talked about it. And through him and his team, including his doctors, they have identified the types of businesses that are able to be opened up during phase one. However, this week, we're kind of in a pre-phase one beginning today. And we open up what's called retail to go. And we've seen this open up across the entire state of Texas. You know, one thing in Texas that has been going on is food to go. You can order food from a restaurant, and even though you cannot go into that restaurant, you can pick up the food or they can deliver it to you. And we saw that program work very effectively without spreading the coronavirus. So we wanted to allow all retailers in the state of Texas to be able to deliver that same thing this week. Also, we expanded surgical procedures this week. On this coming Monday, so April the 27th, I will be announcing what Texas will be doing going forward. Remember two things. One is I issued an executive order that expires on April the 30th. Two is that the president talked about having phase one go into effect beginning in the early part of May. And so tied to both of those timetables, I will announce the plan going forward for phase one in Texas on Monday, where we start talking about opening up more and more business sectors, allowing Texans to get back to work, allowing business owners to be able to start making money to pay their bills, allowing employees to go back and restore their livelihoods. But it must be pointed out, this would be done very safely. It cannot be where everybody goes back in and opens up all the doors and has the same type of level of commercial activity as before, because that would stoke a spike in the spread of the coronavirus. So we've done this in conjunction with doctors coming up with a strategy that will allow us to safely proceed forward, beginning to open up our businesses in Texas without stoking a spike in the coronavirus.
Yes, and that's one of the things that all of this is designed to avoid. I know that there have been some questions as to, because the Texas is one of the states, along with Colorado and Georgia and some others, that are moving into this, as you said, this pre-phase one period. Has Texas met that grading criteria? And I know that I even have questions about that, which sort of are an aside to our conversation here, because there are questions about the cataloging of the fatalities and some of those issues. But when that question comes up, has Texas met that grading criteria? Is there other criteria that you're also incorporating into this decision to move forward?
Well, there actually are a lot of criteria. Let me tell you in part about the so-called grading criteria, because one thing that it looks at is the number of cases, number of deaths, all that kind of stuff. And what we have in Texas, I'm pulling it up as we're speaking. Now, the highest mark that we had for the number of people testing positive in the state of Texas occurred on April the 9th. It was the only day in the state of Texas that we had more than 1,000 people test positive in Texas. And ever since then, it has been on a downward trajectory. And so the trajectory in Texas looks good right now. We continue to reduce that. Our high day for deaths was on April the 14th. And so because we are on a good trajectory, but then there are other things that have to be looked at, because it's far more than just whether or not a person tests positive. Because, listen, there will be a lot of people who test positive, and as we open up, there will be even more people testing positive. And one reason why more people are testing positive is because we're testing more people. The most important things to look at are these, however, and that is, what is the hospitalization rate? What is the availability of hospital rooms, of ICU units, of ventilators? And know this, and that is, you saw the catastrophe that New York was in, that Louisiana suffered through, that New Jersey suffered through, that Detroit and some other cities have suffered through. We have barely tapped the beds that are available, the ICU units that are available, the ventilators that are available. So the medical supplies in Texas are abundant to meet the needs of all the healthcare challenges that anybody may suffer from COVID-19. And then the deaths. Understand this, and that is every death is one too many. But Texas has one of the lowest death rates in the United States. There's only a few states that have a lower raw number of deaths, and those are states that haven't tested near as many people positive as the state of Texas. And so, and then I'll tell you that our recovery rate, Texas ranks number 2 in the nation for people who tested positive but who have recovered from COVID-19. So that's a long way of explaining to you that the numbers really do look good in the state of Texas. We're moving in the right direction that will allow us to slowly, carefully, and safely begin the process of reopening our businesses.
Yes, reopening the businesses. And we know also, I get the press releases from your office. We're speaking with Governor Greg Abbott, the Republic of Texas. School's out for the rest of the year. Is there anything to indicate that it will be school starting in the fall would be delayed? And I realize too that we're actually taking things literally day by day at this point still, but is there anything to indicate to you right now at this moment that the school start time normally in the fall, would that be delayed?
It's too early to know about that for a couple of reasons. One, we need to go through these processes of going through the different phases of opening business and seeing the extent to which we're able to do that while also containing the spread of the coronavirus. If we are successful at that, and if there are therapeutic drugs that become available over the course of the summer, which we think they will, that will allow us to be able to make sure that we will be able to treat anybody who has it, that may allow us to be able to open our schools. That's a decision that we'll have to wait until about the midsummer before we can tell for certain.
Right. A couple of other, this relates to also the real unstable, everything that we saw with the futures with oil, everything this week, the bottoming out of those prices. They were given away for a little bit, given away crude because of the overproduction. Are Texas jobs in jeopardy because of this? And how is this situation remedied, at least as it concerns the state of Texas?
Well, Texas jobs are in jeopardy in the oil and gas sector because of what's happened with the price of crude. Now, we've been through this before, and jobs like this have been lost before, and jobs will be brought back just like they have in the past once again. However, this is an extremely challenging time. We've never seen such a dramatic move in the price of oil as what we saw during this past week, and it's led to enormous challenges in the oil patch and job losses in the oil patch in the state of Texas. However, here's what's going to happen, and that is there was a report out today about the reduction in drilling rigs operating in Texas, and because of the loss of rigs, what you're going to find is there's going to be a decrease in production. We're dealing with the decrease in production all at the same time that Saudi Arabia is shipping millions upon millions of barrels of oil to Texas and to the U.S., and that is adding supply right now. What's going to happen is we will build up supply in May, and then that supply is going to dissipate because of the lack of production, and the lack of production is then going to lead to, once again, a rise in the price of oil. So we have a short-term downturn in the price of oil that should last another couple of months, but then after that, you could see oil prices spike back up.
Yeah. I know no one wants to see Texas slip from that leading position, and we've had many conversations, you and I, on these airwaves about that before as well. I want to ask you, Governor, talking to Governor Greg Abbott, how do you feel about some of these restrictive policies that have been put into place by other state governors or even some in the state of Texas? I know in, I think it's Harris County, they have the mandatory mask, not really so much a guideline, an order in place. Where do you stand on this, and where's the line for you?
Well, what we need to do, we need to balance two things. One is we always need to remember the importance of individual liberty. And so there needs to be limitations on how many dictates can be mandated on individuals. At the same time, we need to, at this time, with regard to things like the coronavirus, make sure that we maintain a level of safety. And so I think it's going to come down to, as opposed to, if you would, jurisdiction-wide restrictions or orders or mandates, it'll be a little bit more pinpointed, and that is, let's say that if you want to go into a grocery store and you're going to be there close to other people, a store may mandate or require, or the best practice could be that people wear a face mask in there. For employees who work, let's say, at restaurants or things like that, could be a requirement that the employees there wear face masks. And so it's more strategic as opposed to a global across-the-board standard.
Yeah, and that's good to hear as well, because we've been seeing some of this in other states. We haven't had the protests in Texas that we've seen in Michigan and elsewhere. Although I think some of those localities, I think that they might start seeing some of this. Governor, last quick thing for you. I know you're busy, and I've been following, as I said, the information coming out of your office, the increase in testing, which is also going along with the reopening. As this, we have never, as not just as a nation, but worldwide, have ever gone through anything like this. And I wanted to know what words of encouragement or optimism that you had for our college seniors, our high school seniors, our adolescents that are out there that are really, really getting hit hard by all of this. And I think that we're going to be seeing the effects of this in the months to come. What words of encouragement do you have?
The main thing, and I know that especially for those who are seniors, whether it be high school or college, whatever the case may be, that this is such an important year for them, and it has to be very disappointing that they could not go through the process of a typical graduation ceremony. Part of our goal is to make sure that there will be some type of ceremony that will be allowed. But there is a takeaway from this, a takeaway that is more valuable than any lesson you learn in your classroom that will do more to prepare you for life. And that's the lesson of resiliency. You have been through a challenge, unlike what anybody's ever been through before. If you can take away from that challenge your sense of resiliency and your perseverance in overcoming in this and not letting this set you back, then you will be able to be on a pathway to respond to future challenges in your life. And that will be a lesson far more valuable than anything you learn in algebra class or anything like that. You'll be prepared for real life challenges.
There you go. Governor Greg Abbott, Republic of Texas. Governor, appreciate the work that you do and the balance with respect to individual liberty. And we're all plodding through this together. We appreciate your time today. Thank you, sir.